Who's this?
I'm Miss.
The Rise of Miss Power aired in February 2012, a little over halfway through Season 4 of WordGirl. It would later be recut into a pair of two-part episodes as part of Season 6 the next year. Though now I'm realizing how weird the show's air dates got. There was an 8-month hiatus in the middle of Season 6, but then Season 7 started nearly 2 months after 6 ended. Apparently this soup was way more nuts than I thought. I did actually catch this on TV at one point, despite having fallen off the series at the time. I think I just caught it at random and was intrigued by the idea of a WordGirl story even bigger than a two-parter. I don't know how or why this came to be, but I'm not gonna complain. The Rise of Miss Power is the biggest story in the series in more ways than one, and has left quite an impact on the fans who watched this as kids, and it is my privilege to share it with you. You're watching a cartoon for 7-year-olds, not cutting the ribbon at a hospital opening. Do me a favor and be quiet before I get the urge to bash you in the head with a pineapple. We open on a mysterious ship flying through space. Its pilot is picking a planet for her next mission and gravitates towards Earth, especially when she hears about WordGirl.
Battle record?
Undefeated. Oh, and thanks for listening.
You were just lucky this time, Chuck.
I'm afraid I can't let you work here.
After the theme song, I felt like we were forgetting something, we're reintroduced to Becky/WordGirl with a montage set to a really nice jazz remix of the show's theme. Afterwards, she's approached by Tim, TJ, and Scoops about a bunch of activities she's loved to participate in, including going to buy a Sparkle Toes figurine. However, Dr. Two Brains attacking City Hall forces her to blow them all off. After Two Brains is beaten, though, the mysterious spaceship touches down. The pilot introduces herself as Miss Power with her sidekick, Colonel Gigglecheeks. Miss Power offers to train WordGirl in superheroing, but WordGirl doesn't entirely trust this woman she just met, even after Miss Power talks about the other so-called champions that she's trained.
Maybe you've heard of a little someone by the name of Greg the Invincible,
Oh yeah, that guy totally looks like a champion of heroism and morality. The two then go to face the Butcher, with Miss Power taking the opportunity to show off her skills and her propensity for insulting people. Miss Power suggests the two train each other. WordGirl learns superhero skills, and Miss Power learns about using her words more wisely, which WordGirl is more amenable to. Part 1 ends, though, with the reveal that Miss Power has a ploy to conquer Earth, with WordGirl's help. We then cut to an episode of Pretty Princess and Magic Pony Power Hour. Let's put a pin in this for a bit. In Part 2, WordGirl is indeed doing physical training with Miss Power, who talks about how she uses the power of words, namely by hitting villains' psychological weak points enough that they lose the will to fight. WordGirl is hesitant, but Miss Power talks about how effective it is and how the villains are really eating into her personal time, so they deserve it anyway. The superheroes are called to stop Chuck, and Miss Power once again encourages WordGirl to let loose. She refuses until Chuck reveals he nabbed one of the Sparkle Toes figurines despite not even liking the show. WordGirl finally flies off the handle, taking apart the Crusher, refusing to help Chuck with words ever again, and insulting his sandwich-shaped head. They carry this momentum through a fight with Toby, who ends up just collapsing from the stress. Wow, is this what feeling bad for Toby is like? No wonder so many people put him on a pedestal.
Obviously. I guess I just never realized.
Aww. Wait, have we ever seen that mayor robot before? Becky races home for an outing with her dad, but it quickly becomes apparent her newfound harshness isn't just directed towards villains. Not to mention other citizens are also following Miss Power's example. Eventually, Becky lashes out at Bob, causing him to leave. Becky, in turn, returns to Miss Power. Hey, you get your hands off WordGirl or you're gonna end up on my pineappling list. In Part 3, Miss Power's manipulations continue, but WordGirl starts to hit her limit when Miss Power vows to never let Dr. Two Brains eat cheese ever again and jails Reginald for being slightly rude. This, combined with Sally expressing her disappointment in WordGirl, finally gets her to push back against Miss Power. Unfortunately, Miss Power doesn't take kindly to being rejected and drags WordGirl around while ranting about how weak and ineffectual she is. This whole setup feels eerily familiar. Oh, I know what I'm thinking of. Spider-Man 2.
Listen to what I'm saying. You know in your heart I'm right.
About how pathetic and pointless humanity is.
Wait, J.K. Simmons played a different character in that movie, right? Miss Power reveals her true colors. Kind of literally. WordGirl fights back with the freeze breath Miss Power taught her, but she easily breaks out and tears WordGirl's symbol off her costume. She decides to celebrate by ripping off two of WordGirl's other villains.
WordGirl is done. Finished!
defeated. Yeah, I'm the best. Say who's the best said I'm the best.
Before Miss Power can take WordGirl to jail though, thank you for reminding me this is a PBS Kids show, Huggy arrives to get WordGirl away. Becky makes up with Bob and her parents, but the happy moment is ruined by Miss Power arresting Sally for disagreeing with her. Part 3 ends with Tim and Bob each having their own plans to save the day, with the latter dragging Becky off. Part 4 starts with WordGirl and Huggy at the spaceship hideout, where Huggy reveals a book of Lexiconian battle tactics.
Mind translating that?
Oh, yeah, he thought I was doing all right on my own.
Aww. Tim's plan to save Sally utterly fails, but Sally has her own plan: raise the villain's spirits and have them team up to all bust out. This leads into a glorious scene where almost every villain the show has takes Miss Power on. I mean, wow, so many eclectic designs and power sets back to back, so fast-paced, set during sunset. This may be the best action scene in the show, and it's something you could only pull off in a big event like this. Despite this massive legion though, Miss Power and Colonel Gigglecheeks are just too strong, quick, and skilled, taking everyone down quickly. She even grabs Dr. Two Brains and nearly blasts him in the head with heat vision. However, WordGirl arrives in the nick of time. She decries Miss Power's bullying ways and remains confident in the face of her insults, even encouraging and being encouraged by the villains. Eventually, she tricks Miss Power into agreeing that WordGirl will be triumphant, and when Miss Power is told what that means, she's so humiliated she decides to just ditch Earth and try somewhere else. In the wake of everything that happened, WordGirl decides to give the villains a break.
We're set then. Let's go on vacation, guys.
Isn't this the greatest
Vacation
ever?
No!
She then drops Sally at home in a scene that feels very reminiscent of The Wrong Side of the Law's ending, but with way more emotion, as Sally says how proud she is of WordGirl, and how she hopes her daughter will end up being just like her.
It means everything to me, Mrs. Botsford.
Okay.
As you'd expect, this has a lot more material to work with compared to the rest of the series, so let's tackle this one aspect at a time, starting with the aesthetics. The visuals are probably the weakest part of the movie. Not that it's bad per se, but I've said before I'm not the biggest fan of WordGirl's art style, and this doesn't really do anything distinct or different with it. I will give props to setting the final part at sunset, but it's not like that's anything new for the show. Cinematography-wise, it's a bit better. Most of the movie looks pretty much like you'd expect, but there are a few striking shots like the train scene,
Maybe this time you'll learn.
and some occasional use of Dutch angles to make Miss Power and the effects she has on others feel more subtly off-putting. The music, though, I will say I like. Some of it is just the show's standard soundtrack, but there's a few new songs that work really well. Miss Power's main leitmotif just feels mysterious and vaguely heroic at first, but as she reveals her true self, it really works for selling how sinister she is. And the other musical highlight is the new action theme. It's basically just saying Miss Power is utterly decimating someone right now. I do think it would have been a bit stronger if it was limited to after Miss Power turned on WordGirl though, as it's a bit too imposing and dramatic for the standard hero versus villain fights in part 2. Relatively standard, at least. Most of the other new songs are fine enough, not standout, but they fit their scenes pretty well. Quick shout out to the brief cartoony theme that plays when Colonel Gigglecheeks reveals his stretching power. It sticks out like a sore thumb from the rest of the soundtrack, but it is a scene where an alien animal turns his neck into a spaghetti noodle to eat a bunch of spaghetti. What even is Colonel Gigglecheeks? A red panda? But with that, I think it's time to move on to the story. This isn't the first time WordGirl has had a mentor that went evil, but unlike Professor Boxleitner / Dr. Two Brains, Miss Power was always evil and actively manipulating her. I know grooming has become a very loaded term nowadays, but that's basically what she's doing, ingratiating herself with WordGirl over time, appealing to her desires, cutting her off from anyone else she could trust, though this part was mostly unintentional. We even see Miss Power use gifts to build her relationship with WordGirl, and through that trust, Miss Power actively warps WordGirl into being more like her. What do you mean we only have the one pineapple? Part 2 shows Becky, as well as several others, acting uncharacteristically mean and irritable, which really shows how toxic Miss Power is. It's genuinely a little uncomfortable, and all of this is in service to the moral of the movie. Firstly, I appreciate they took the opportunity to have a moral like this instead of just making it a bigger scale version of a typical word girl versus villain plot. And while you could argue it's a very simplistic and obvious bullying is wrong, there's actually a bit more nuance than that. Here's the thing, as much as we like them for how fun and often amiable they are, WordGirl's villains are not good people. They steal, destroy, and hurt others, and most of the time they show no remorse for these actions. Several times it's suggested the act of being evil criminals is something they take pride in. But this movie asks the question, does someone being as awful as this justify being awful back at them, even if you justify it as getting them to stop more quickly? In a way, this episode is an exploration of whether the ends justify the means, and it ultimately concludes that they don't. To be clear, WordGirl's villains being uniformly lovable does emphasize this point. It's very rare, if not unheard of, for any of them to act truly cruelly, so turning cruelty on them in turn comes off as even more unreasonable. But even so, there's a difference between fighting back and deliberately aiming to hurt someone. And that's another part I like. We've all seen bullying stories with a turn the other cheek moral, but here, fighting back is never considered part of the problem in and of itself. While WordGirl doesn't defeat Miss Power with a physical fight, that's more because we've seen it wouldn't work and she needs to use different tactics. Though I do have some reservations regarding the final confrontation. Not that it isn't action-y enough, that it'd defeat the whole point and we just had a massive action scene, but the scene just plays out too fast and feels way too easy. Apparently WordGirl's secret battle tactics are don't let your enemy rattle you. It's not a bad thing to teach kids, but the episode ironically falls into another trap of bullying episodes by implying you can just choose not to be affected by someone's insults. It's not as simple as that. Emotions aren't as simple as that. Dealing with bullies isn't as simple as that. You could assume these super advanced secret battle moves include instruction on how to deal with emotional turmoil like that, but the fact you need to go off assumption is part of the problem. The best you could say is that the episode implies support from others is important given the roles of Huggy and the villains, but that doesn't really explain how WordGirl is so assured, almost smug. Imagine an alternate version of the climax where Miss Power succeeds in tearing down WordGirl emotionally again, only for the words of the villains and her mother to rekindle her vigor and fighting spirit. Heck, the emphasis on Becky cutting herself off from her family and friends midway through the movie almost makes me think this was the message they were going for, but if that was the case, you'd think they'd show Miss Power actively making an effort to isolate WordGirl, or they'd openly address this as a way to combat her behavior. There's a really good theme about cruelty and bullying behavior in here, but half of it at least feels very muddled and overly simplistic. I do at least applaud the effort in making... I do at least applaud the effort in making the effort to give a... What is with that? I do at least applaud the effort to give a good salient lesson to kids though, and even at its worst, the movie isn't teaching something toxic. I also appreciate Sally and her role in delivering that lesson. Admittedly though, I think I'd prefer if she showed more negative reaction to Miss Power insulting the villains. She's mainly shown responding to the normalization of bullying behavior, which does relate to the villain's treatment, but she only really shows sympathy to ordinary civilians. I think it'd have some real punch if Sally Botsford, district attorney, openly stuck up for the bad guys she puts away before encouraging them to stand up to Miss Power. Aside from that though, this movie really makes me think that Sally was Becky's initial inspiration to help people, even if the movie is pushing the implication that superheroing is a common lexiconian pastime, like how humans have staring at loud boxes and putting spheres in defective butterfly nets. Sally is the one person who never for a second buys into Miss Power's philosophy because she's truly dedicated to justice. She doesn't just pursue justice through inflicting consequences on wrongdoers, but ensuring everyone is treated fairly and with respect. Even with said wrongdoers, it's evident she still has some level of respect for them, to the point she ends up leading them into battle. These are attributes that have rubbed off on Becky. Even when fighting her villains, she rarely disrespects them outside this movie. She's always willing to lend an ear if a villain is coming in good faith, and she does spend plenty of time helping citizens outside of stopping crimes. I was going to make a joke about how we don't see this too often because WordGirl well as trying to be an exciting action show, but then I realized, WordGirl tries to improve people's lives without fighting crime at least twice per episode. It's called teaching vocabulary. The entire point of the show reflects the protagonist's character, who'd have thought? Oh, and Becky's other parent?
It's time to put on my danger pants. Boop-a-doop-boop-boo, Tim Botsford!
Is equally important to this movie. Interestingly, there isn't as much comedy as you'd expect, even accounting for the more dramatic bent of the story. It feels like a lot of scenes that would be comedic are played differently, particularly anything involving Miss Power. Her insults and entitlement would be funny elsewhere, but here they're meant to play up how intimidating and toxic she is.
Why is Reginald tied up like a criminal?
Well, because he's rude.
Yes.
Usually. Overall, The Rise of Miss Power is a heartfelt, exciting story about what it really means to be a hero and a good person. While it blunders the delivery of its message, it is a good message in the end, and the story is heightened even more by how the characters have been built up over the last 4 seasons. Despite everything, I really appreciate how it feels like more than just a super long episode, and okay, we can talk about that. So since this is such a special event, they apparently decided the interstitials should be special as well. As such, instead of more game show nonsense, we have a series of shorts set in the world of Becky's favorite show, Pretty Princess. 10.5 minutes of a completely different show in the middle of my superhero adventure? Why not? This will be good practice for the My Little Pony retrospective I'll get to in like 30 years probably. In the magic kingdom of Sparkletopia, the ruler King Jubilee possesses a magic crown that makes everyone feel the same emotions as him. The bard/narrator uses his magic storytelling powers to summon Count Cloudy, who steals the crown and makes everyone feel sad. I don't know if I should be more upset with the bard for ruining everyone's day out of boredom, or the king for pulling a Dr. Maruki on his kingdom. Everyone will be as happy as me, no matter what. Pretty Princess sets off with the magic pony, and do these two have other names? I want to say no, but just an hour ago I got caught up by a YouTube comment for forgetting Warden Chalmers' name, so who knows? Anyway, they set off to stop Count Cloudy. Along the way, they find a squirrel and ask it for help.
Oh, so it's gonna be that way, is it?
I think Pretty Princess might be a new favorite character. The bard summons a dragon, then after part 2 starts, some berries as well. The berries turn out to be tiny berry people. Man, I was hoping this magic fairy tale show would be more grounded in reality than WordGirl, who tell the heroes where to find Count Cloudy. It turns out the guy does the whole evil villain with a cute cat thing, except his cat is a cloud that meows. I love this creature.
Oh no.
Aww. I'm saying "aw" a lot in this episode. Part 3 opens with Pretty Princess and Count Cloudy fighting. The bard, wanting his conclusion to be as good as possible, warps them to different settings until Pete-P's Scepter of Smiles, aka what the Joker brings to a Renaissance fair, is drained of power. Pretty Princess says that maybe Count Cloudy will be a good king actually, but it's all a trick to get him feeling so happy the crown, vibrates off his head from too many good vibes. Oh, but we can't even just have a simple ending, as the bard brings back the dragon from earlier because it's a cool twist. And then after the final cliffhanger, he just gives up and makes the dragon friendly all of a sudden. Pretty Princess and Magic Pony really need to find a better dungeon master. Yeah, there's not really much to this. If you were interested in learning more about the Pretty Princess lore, you're gonna be disappointed. Pretty much everything here is exactly what you'd expect from the snippets we've seen in WordGirl. The most interesting thing here is the bard, who admittedly is pretty fun. He's basically WordGirl's narrator if he took a more direct role in manipulating the story. I also like how this storytelling motif fed into these interstitials having their own featured words themed around storytelling. Aside from him, the only character who was even kind of interesting was, ever so surprisingly, the main character herself, Pretty Princess. She comes off like a mix of Becky and Violet. Violet's ditziness, Becky's cleverness, and both of their determination and heroism. Magic Pony and Count Cloudy are both pretty dull, but I do find it fun how these shorts completely validate what Tim said about Cloudy in That's Entertainment.
Sometimes people are mean because they're lonely or afraid.
Nobody's ever said anything so nice to me before.
It's probably a coincidence, but I'm gonna pretend otherwise because shows I like being smart makes me feel happy inside. But, yeah, Pretty Princess is a thing. There is honestly a part of me that wants to see what it'd be like if it became an actual show and got fleshed out more. Imagine if this whole thing was secretly a backdoor pilot, but it was alright at breaking up the drama of the Rise of Miss Power. And now we can finally end off this video with, oh right, I already finished the movie review. There's nothing more to discuss. Okay, I'm gonna go work on something else. Something about orange Power Rangers or how much I hate Feraligatr or something. See you in another 6 months. Next time on...
The secret is peas.
Where's Huggy? He's trapped in that steak.
No, but I heard voices inside.
What was this all about again?
The ghost is wearing loafers.
For another exciting, awesome, incredible episode of...
So what do you think Miss Power's real name is? My theory is that her full name is